Have you ever been in that place where you gave everything? Not just your time, not just your attention, but your very soul. Just so that someone would finally stay. You bent, you broke, you sacrificed pieces of yourself, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if you loved enough, if you cared enough, if you became enough, they would choose you. But they didn't. They left. And all you were left with was that brutal, aching question, am I still not good enough? Carl Jung warned us, what you thought was love was never love. It was self-abandonment, cleverly disguised as devotion. It was the illusion that if you lose yourself for someone else, they will reward you with love. But instead, they walked away, and you were left hollow. Here is the truth Jung revealed. Until you awaken to your own worth, you will keep living the same heartbreak, only with different names, different faces, different bodies. The story repeats, not because you are unlucky in love, but because your unconscious mind is directing the script. And here's the twist. The love you are so desperately searching for will not be found in someone's arms, or in their promises, or in their words. No. That love is waiting inside you, quiet, powerful, and eternal. Stay with me until the very end of this journey. Because today you might just realize that the one you've been waiting for, the one who can finally heal you, has been with you all along. Chapter 1. Love born from need is not love. Love born from fear, from emptiness, from that aching loneliness inside you, is not love. It feels like love in the beginning because it is intense, overwhelming, even intoxicating. But look closer. It is not love. It is dependency wearing love's mask. Carl Jung reminded us that when your soul whispers, I am not enough, life sends you people who confirm that whisper. They don't heal you. They highlight your wound. And the cruel truth? Until you awaken, you will repeat the same heartbreak with different names. Think about it. How many times have you mistaken your desperate need to be chosen as evidence of love? You cling, you compromise, you silence your truth, hoping that the other person will finally fill the hole inside you. But dependency is not love. It is emotional slavery. You hand over the keys of your worth to someone else and wait for their approval to tell you who you are. And every time they pull away, you collapse. Not because they are gone, but because you never stood on your own 2 feet in the first place. Dependency says, without you I am nothing. But love says, even without you I am still me. That difference changes everything. When your energy radiates desperation, people may be drawn to you at first, but soon they feel suffocated. The invisible pressure to complete you becomes too heavy. Jung called this the power of the unconscious, the energy of lack that pushes people away even as you try to hold them closer. Love that begins from emptiness always ends in collapse. Close your eyes and imagine this, a house built on sand. At first it looks solid, you decorate it, you invest in it, you call it home, but the first wave comes and everything falls apart. That's what love from need is, a house built on sand. No foundation, no grounding, no strength. The moment life tests it, it crumbles, because real love cannot be built on emptiness. It must be built on presence, on wholeness, on two people who know who they are before they ever meet. Why do we fall into this trap again and again? Because our unconscious wounds act like magnets. A woman who was once emotionally ignored as a child finds herself drawn again and again to partners who are distant, unavailable, cold. A man who grew up feeling invisible keeps chasing validation from people who never truly see him. This is not bad luck. This is the unconscious repeating its script. Jung said it best, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The cruel illusion is this. You think you are loving someone, but in truth you are reenacting an old drama, casting them as a new actor in a role written long before they ever appeared. You don't love them for who they are. You love them because they trigger your wound, and in that pain you feel something familiar. But what feels familiar is not love. It is trauma disguised as destiny. And until you awaken, you'll keep mistaking pain for passion and dependency for devotion. True love does not ask you to abandon yourself. It does not thrive on fear of losing the other. It does not keep you anxious, restless, panicked over unanswered messages. When your entire worth depends on their presence, that is not love. That is bondage. Love that is born from freedom, on the other hand, allows both people to breathe. It says, "I love you, but I do not need you to complete me. I was whole before you came, and I will be whole even if you leave." That is the difference between prison and partnership. So let me ask you, when you love, are you giving from overflow or from emptiness? Do you stand firm as your own person, or do you shrink and twist yourself, hoping someone will finally choose you? Jung's wisdom pierces the illusion. What you attract is not what you dream of, but what you are. If your heart beats with lack, you will attract people who confirm that lack. But when you begin to love yourself enough to no longer beg for scraps, the universe shifts. You no longer attract people to fill your emptiness. You attract people who respect your fullness. Chapter 2. The Mirror of Projection. Every relationship you've ever had is not just about the other person. It is a mirror reflecting you back to yourself. That cold partner who ignored you. That abandoning friend who walked away. They didn't create the wound inside you, they revealed it. And this is where most of us get trapped. We think we are falling in love with people, but in truth, we are falling in love with our own projection on them. We paint them with the colors of our unconscious, then call it destiny. But when the fog clears, the love fades, because what we loved was never them. It was a piece of ourselves we refused to face. Carl Jung warned that the unconscious has a cruel but necessary way of teaching us. It places before us not what we want, but what we need to see. You thought you met a soulmate, but often you met your shadow. That same pattern of choosing distant, unavailable, or emotionally cold partners is not coincidence. It is the unconscious saying, "Here is your wound. Will you look at it this time?" Every relationship is a message, every heartbreak a mirror. Yet instead of pausing, we blame the person, move on, and project again. That's why the cycle repeats. We don't actually love people for who they are. We love them for the story they let us tell ourselves. The man who craves validation is drawn to the woman who seems impossible to please. The woman who fears abandonment is drawn to the partner who always threatens to leave. They think this is love, but in truth they are simply meeting their reflection. Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." The problem is most people resist the transformation and cling to the illusion. Think about it. How many times have you been blinded by the idea of someone? You don't love them. You love the fantasy your mind projected onto them. You ignore the red flags, twist your boundaries, silence your doubts, all because your unconscious insists, this person will heal what you never healed yourself. And when they fail to play the role you projected, the illusion shatters. You don't just feel heartbreak, you feel betrayed by your own dream. That's the moment you must ask yourself, did I love them or did I love who I wished they were? Projection is powerful because it feels like fate. You meet someone and instantly you feel a pull. It's destiny. It's meant to be. But what if it isn't destiny? What if it's your unconscious magnet pulling you back to the same wound? Jung believed the anima and animus, the inner images of the opposite we carry within, shape who we are drawn to. This means you don't just meet random people. You meet exactly the one who mirrors your inner state. They awaken hidden parts of you, sometimes beautiful, sometimes painful, but always necessary for growth. Here's the danger. When you don't realize projection is at play, you become addicted to illusions. You chase the high of infatuation, mistaking it for love, only to crash when the mask falls. And instead of turning inward, you start searching outward again. Another person, another face, another projection. But Jung said, the best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. Until you see your own shadow, you will continue to see it in everyone else and call it love, call it fate, call it heartbreak. So pause and reflect. That coldness that cut you so deep. Was it really theirs, or was it echoing the absence you've carried since childhood? That fear of abandonment. Is it truly about them leaving, or about your own fear of never being enough? When you see the truth of projection, relationships stop being prisons and start becoming teachers. They show you your blind spots, your hidden beliefs, your secret wounds. They are mirrors. And the question is not whether the mirror is kind, but whether you are brave enough to look. Here's the breakthrough. When you withdraw projection, you reclaim power. You stop needing others to carry your wounds. You stop confusing your fantasy for their reality. And in that clarity, love finally becomes possible. Not the fragile illusion built on shadows, but the grounded connection of two whole beings. Until then, remember this: every person you meet is either reflecting your pain or reflecting your healing. And the fastest way to attract the right love is not to change the mirror, but to change the self it reflects. Because when the inner picture changes, the outer world cannot resist following. Chapter 3. The energy of lack. Need is silent, but people feel it. You think holding tighter will make someone stay, but the truth is, the more you cling, the more they suffocate. This invisible pressure isn't love, it's desperation. Jung called it the shadow, the parts of you unloved by yourself, now begging others to fill the gap. But no one can carry that weight for long. Love born from lack whispers, "Without you, I am nothing." Love born from wholeness declares, "With or without you, I am still me." And that difference decides whether your love frees or destroys. Think about the last time you panicked over a delayed reply, a missed call, a moment of silence. That wasn't love. It was anxiety screaming, "If they don't answer, I don't exist." This is the energy of lack. It makes you chase, overgive, and bend until you break. And yet the irony? The harder you try to hold on, the faster they pull away. Not because you aren't lovable, but because your energy is shouting, "Complete me, save me, prove I'm enough." And deep down, you know it. This is not love. It's begging disguised as devotion. Carl Jung once said, "What you are not conscious of will control you, and you will call it fate." The energy of lack lives in the unconscious. You may smile, pretend you're fine, even act confident, but your energy tells the truth. Others sense when your worth depends on their validation. They feel the invisible hand tugging at their freedom, and instinctively they retreat. You believe they're abandoning you, but in reality they're escaping the pressure of carrying a soul that refuses to stand on its own. This is why love born from need always collapses. It is too heavy to hold. Imagine being thirsty in a desert. When you're starving for water, you'll drink anything, muddy, polluted, unclean. That's what the energy of lack does in relationships. It makes you accept crumbs, toxic love, half-hearted effort, just to silence the fear of being alone. But real love is not found in desperation. Real love comes when you no longer drink just to survive, but because you already know how to quench your own thirst. Love from lack poisons. Love from fullness nourishes. The question is, are you drinking from a desert or from a well within yourself? Here's the painful truth. The energy of lack makes you betray yourself. You forgive too quickly. You tolerate disrespect. You sacrifice your needs just to keep someone close. And then, when they leave, you crumble. Not because they were your oxygen, but because you forgot you could breathe without them. Jung compared the unconscious to an iceberg. What you see on the surface is small, but beneath lies the vastness of your hidden wounds, fears, and insecurities. Until you face them, your love will always carry the weight of lack, and that weight will push people away. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, when you say, "I love you," what do you really mean? Do you mean, "I see you, I cherish you, I honor you"? Or do you mean, "Please don't leave me because without you I'm empty"? That's the brutal test of love. If your declaration of love is fueled by fear of loss, it is not love. It is attachment, anxiety, shadow. But when you can stand whole and say, "I want you, but I don't need you to exist," then your love becomes pure. That is the love people trust, respect, and run toward. Look around. People who effortlessly attract love aren't more beautiful or more charming than you. Their secret is energy. They are magnetic because they radiate ease, not need. They don't chase, they simply are. They don't beg to be loved, they already love themselves. And because they carry no invisible debt, others feel free in their presence. That's the paradox. When you no longer need love to survive, love flows to you naturally. When you stop clinging, people stop running. When you become whole, you stop attracting those who thrive on your emptiness. So here's the shift. Stop asking, "Why don't they love me?" and start asking, "Why don't I love myself enough to stop begging?" The energy of lack is a shadow you must face, not outsource. Heal it, and your relationships transform. Love from lack binds you in chains. Love from wholeness frees both souls. Jung's lesson is clear. You cannot attract healthy love while vibrating with need. But the moment you become whole, you emit a frequency of freedom. And freedom always calls forth real love, because true love does not complete you, it meets you whole and unbroken. Chapter 4. Individuation. The key Carl Jung's greatest teaching was not about love, not about success, but about individuation, the journey of becoming whole within yourself. He said true transformation begins when you stop living as half a puzzle waiting for someone else to complete you. Individuation means you are no longer desperate for a savior, no longer chasing someone to fix the cracks in your soul. You integrate your wounds, your fears, your shadow, and you emerge as a complete human being. And only from that wholeness can love finally flow freely, because then you are not seeking someone to rescue you. You are meeting an equal. Imagine the shift. From the weak, desperate voice saying, "Please choose me, don't leave me, I'll do anything to keep you," to the powerful declaration, "I choose myself first. I was whole before you came, and I will be whole if you go." This transformation is not arrogance, and it is freedom, because when you live from need, your love becomes a cage. But when you live from wholeness, your love becomes a gift. Individuation is the process of reclaiming every lost piece of yourself, so you never again mistake dependency for love. But what does individuation actually mean? It is not simply independence. It's not about isolating yourself or never needing anyone. It is about awareness, finally seeing who you truly are beneath the masks, the roles, the wounds. It's about integrating your shadow instead of projecting it. It's about embracing both your light and your darkness, and still saying, "I am enough." When you individuate, you stop abandoning yourself for approval. You stop twisting your soul just to belong. And in that moment, you attract people who honor your authenticity, not your performance. Think of the woman who grew up believing she was unworthy of love. She enters relationships giving, sacrificing, silencing herself, hoping that being good enough will make someone stay. But they all leave, not because she isn't lovable, but because she hasn't loved herself. Individuation is her breaking point, the moment she stops saying, "What do I need to do so they won't leave?" and starts asking, "Why don't I love myself enough to stay true to me?" This shift is radical. When she chooses herself, she no longer attracts those who prey on emptiness. She attracts those who respect her wholeness. Jung described individuation as the soul's most important task. It's not a luxury, it's survival. Without it, you live as a fragment, constantly begging others to complete the picture. With it, you live as a full painting, beautiful, whole, unshakable. Individuation doesn't mean rejecting love. It means entering love from strength, not weakness. It means saying, "I want you in my life, but I don't need you to define my worth." And that, ironically, is what creates the deepest, most secure love, because it is no longer built on fear of loss. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop desperately searching for the one, the right person appears. Why? Because you finally stopped broadcasting the energy of lack. You became the one, and people feel it. When you embody individuation, you radiate a calm magnetism. You are not begging for attention. You are anchored in self-respect. This is the energy that attracts love naturally. Because people don't fall in love with desperation. They fall in love with wholeness. And wholeness begins the day you stop waiting for rescue and decide to rescue yourself. Individuation is not easy. It requires courage to face the parts of yourself you've buried for years. It means confronting childhood wounds, rewriting beliefs, forgiving your own mistakes, and accepting your shadow. It is brutal, but it is also beautiful, because every piece you integrate makes you stronger, more authentic, more magnetic. And then, love becomes effortless. It is no longer a battlefield where you fight for scraps of attention. It becomes a sacred space where two whole people meet, not to fix each other, but to grow together. That is real love. So ask yourself today, are you still saying, "Choose me, please, Mana," or have you stepped into the power of saying, "I choose myself first"? Individuation is the bridge between illusion and truth. Without it, you repeat cycles of heartbreak, mistaking pain for passion. With it, you attract the kind of love that reflects your healing, not your wounds. Jung's wisdom is clear. Stop searching for the one who completes you. Become whole, and the right person will appear. Not because you need them, but because you no longer need anyone to prove you are enough. Chapter 5. Red Flags versus Green Flags. Carl Jung believed love is never neutral. It either awakens your wholeness or it deepens your wounds. That's why spotting the difference between red flags and green flags is not optional, it's survival. When love is born from need, the red flags look like romance, but they are traps. Checking their phone status every hour, silencing your own truth just to keep them happy, or pouring out love only to be loved back. These are not acts of love, they are acts of fear. And fear always kills connection. Think about it. When you're constantly monitoring their online status, is that love? Or is that your anxiety screaming for validation? When you bite your tongue instead of speaking your truth, are you loving, or are you abandoning yourself? When you give endlessly, not from overflow but from emptiness, are you loving them, or are you just begging not to be left? These are the hidden red flags of need love. They feel normal, even romantic at first, but over time, they drain you, suffocate the relationship, and prove that this was never love. It was dependency. True love looks completely different. It doesn't chain you, it frees you. A green flag is someone who respects your solitude instead of fearing it. They don't panic when you need time alone. They honor it because they know space strengthens connection. A green flag is someone who holds space for your boundaries without making you feel guilty. They don't demand you shrink yourself to fit them. They celebrate the fact that you stand tall. Real love does not silence your voice, it makes your voice louder. Because love is not about control, it's about expansion. Here's the paradox. Most people ignore red flags because they're afraid of being alone. You convince yourself, it's fine if I check their phone every night, at least they haven't left. Or, it's okay that I can't speak my truth, at least I'm not alone. This is the unconscious trick Jung warned us about. You call fear love because it feels safer than emptiness. But real love begins where self-abandonment ends. Green flags only appear when you've stopped betraying yourself. Until then, you will tolerate red flags and call them passion. Let's paint a picture. Red flag. You text them, they don't reply for hours, and your chest tightens with panic. You imagine the worst. You start scrolling their stories, dissecting their silence, torturing yourself. Green flag. They don't reply for hours, but you feel calm because you trust their presence and you trust yourself. The energy is completely different. One comes from lack, the other from wholeness. Jung said, "Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling." Green flag love gives you peace, not chaos. Another red flag. You silence your voice to keep peace. You hold back your opinions, your truth, your anger, because deep down you believe speaking will drive them away. That is not peace. It's self-erasure. In contrast, the green flag is when your partner listens, even when you disagree. They don't punish you for being real. They don't demand perfection. They create space for authenticity, and that space is where real intimacy grows. Love without truth is not love. It's a performance. Green flags prove love isn't about pretending, it's about being seen. The deepest red flag is this: loving just to be loved back. You give, but it's not pure, it's bargaining. You sacrifice yourself not because you want to, but because you're terrified of losing them. That's not love. That's survival mode. But the green flag? It's when someone loves you without trying to fix you, without trying to mold you, without needing you to be less or more. They simply love you as you are, not as their projection. Jung's wisdom echoes here. Real love doesn't demand masks, it removes them. So pause and ask yourself, are you living in red flags or green flags? Are you in a cycle of chasing, begging, silencing, or in a flow of trust, freedom, and authenticity? The truth is this: the love you accept is a mirror of the love you give yourself. If you keep ignoring red flags, it means you are still ignoring your own wounds. But the moment you raise your standards, the universe responds. Red flag love will vanish. Green flag love will appear. Because when you choose yourself first, you teach the world how to love you. Chapter 6. The Transformation Story. Before individuation, heartbreak feels like death. You rush into love after every ending, chasing validation as if another person's attention is oxygen. You jump from one relationship to the next, not because you're ready, but because silence terrifies you. But this rushing is not healing, it is running. And the cruel truth? You can change faces, change names, change places, but the wound inside you follows. Until one day, you stop. You pause. You face the pain. That pause is the beginning of transformation. That pause is the birth of individuation. After individuation, everything shifts. You no longer run from heartbreak, you study it. You no longer panic at loneliness, you embrace it as medicine. Instead of rushing into another pair of arms, you finally learn to hold yourself. And something miraculous happens. You heal. Your scars become lessons. Your solitude becomes strength. And when you finally walk into love again, you do it whole, not half. Suddenly, the people you attract change, not because the world changed, but because your energy changed. Love starts to reflect wholeness instead of wounds. Carl Jung captured this perfectly. Where there is desire, there is bondage. But where there is love without need, there is freedom. Before individuation, love was bondage. Chains disguised as devotion. You needed them to choose you, to validate you, to prove you mattered. But after individuation, love is freedom. You don't cling, you don't beg, you don't demand. You simply stand whole, and from that wholeness, love flows naturally. Desire shackles, wholeness liberates, and liberation is the only soil where real love can grow. Picture this transformation as a story. Before, a man, heartbroken, downloads 3 dating apps the same night his relationship ends. He scrolls endlessly, chasing the feeling of being desired, but every match feels empty. After individuation, the same man spends months in solitude, healing his wounds, reclaiming his worth. When he finally meets someone new, he isn't desperate, he is grounded. His calmness radiates strength, and the woman in front of him feels it instantly. This man doesn't need her to survive, he chooses her freely. That is the power of transformation. The energy shift is undeniable. Before individuation, your presence says, "Please love me, I'll do anything." After individuation, your energy says, "I already love myself. If you walk with me, good. If you don't, I'll still shine." And people feel it. The needy energy that once repelled love vanishes. In its place, you radiate peace, confidence, and wholeness. That's why the wrong people stop coming into your life. They can't survive in the presence of your self-respect. And the right ones, they are magnetized to it, drawn to your freedom like light. But here's the secret most people never realize. Individuation doesn't just change who you attract, it changes what you tolerate. Before, you begged for crumbs, stayed in toxic cycles, silenced your pain. After individuation, you know your worth too deeply to settle. Red flags that once looked romantic now look like danger. Games that once felt exciting now look like poison. You become immune to illusions. And because you refuse to abandon yourself anymore, the only relationships that survive are the ones that honor your wholeness. This transformation isn't easy. It feels like fire. But fire doesn't only destroy, fire refines. The heartbreaks that once broke you become the very fuel that builds you. Jung believed suffering has meaning when it awakens the self. Every tear, every silence, every betrayal, it all becomes raw material for your individuation. And when you finally emerge, you no longer fear being alone. You no longer chase. You no longer need. You simply live. And in that freedom, love arrives not as a rescue, but as a reward. So ask yourself, are you still rushing into love, hoping someone will heal you? Or have you paused, healed, and stepped into wholeness? Because the difference between the two is everything. Love born from wounds always ends in collapse. Love born from individuation creates freedom. Jung's wisdom echoes, desire binds, freedom liberates. The transformation story is not about finding the right person, it is about becoming the right person. And when you do, the right person always appears. Not because you need them, but because you no longer need anyone to prove you are enough. Chapter 7. The Final Conclusion. In the end, love is not about finding the missing piece. It's about becoming the piece that was missing within you. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every silent night was never proof that you were unworthy. It was proof that you had abandoned yourself. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your destiny. The moment you love yourself enough to stop begging, the entire game changes. Suddenly, you're not chasing love, you're attracting it. Not because you're desperate, but because your energy screams, I am whole. Think of the story we've walked through together. Before individuation, you rushed, you clung, you begged. Every red flag looked like romance. Every projection felt like destiny. Every silence made you collapse. That was the old you. But after individuation, after choosing yourself, everything shifts. Now you pause, you breathe, you listen. You no longer drown in lack. You radiate wholeness, and people feel it. You stop attracting those who exploit your wounds and start meeting those who respect your worth. Because when you stand whole, only whole people can stand beside you. This is the brutal but liberating truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you radiate emptiness, emptiness finds you. If you radiate fear, fear follows you. But if you radiate freedom, authenticity, and self-love, the right people appear without you having to chase. That is the law of energy. Jung said, where there is desire, there is bondage. But where there is love without need, there is freedom. That freedom is not found in someone else's arms. It is born inside your own soul. And from that real love flows. So here's the challenge. Stop asking, when will the right person come, and start asking, when will I finally choose myself? Because the right person doesn't appear when you're starving. They appear when you're full. They don't come to rescue you. They come to walk beside you. They don't arrive to heal your emptiness. They arrive because you already learned how to love yourself. And the irony? The moment you stop needing them, the right ones arrive naturally. Why? Because your wholeness is magnetic. Freedom is attractive. Self-love is irresistible. Imagine your life two ways. Path one, you never change. You keep chasing, begging, shrinking, losing yourself for love. And 10 years from now, you're still stuck in the same cycle, older, emptier, more broken. Path two, you awaken, you choose yourself, you heal, you individuate. And from that day forward, you only accept love that honors your wholeness. Which path will you choose? Jung's philosophy was never about theory, it was about transformation. And this is your choice. Repeat the cycle or break it. Suffer the same pain or create a new story. Let this sink in. You were never unworthy. You were simply unaware. Unaware that love without self-love is slavery. Unaware that chasing validation is bondage. Unaware that you are the one you've been waiting for. The day you wake up to this truth, the chains break. You stop begging, you stop shrinking, you stop settling, and then love, real love, the kind that doesn't suffocate, finally appears. Because now you know, love is not about completion. Love is about two whole souls walking side by side, free, equal, unbroken. So pause right now. Look at your life. Are you in a cycle of red flags, projections, and lack? Or are you walking the path of individuation, of wholeness, of self-love? Because your answer will decide the love you attract next. Remember this forever. Broken energy attracts broken people. Whole energy attracts whole people. The universe doesn't send you what you ask for. It sends you what you are. Change your energy, and you change your destiny. Heal yourself, and you heal the kind of love you invite into your life.